Whether you're a seasoned cruiser or a first-time cruiser, here are some ways that you are probably making your cruise experience harder than it needs to be without even realizing it. Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a travel agent that specializes in princess cruises, and today we're going to chat about some of the mistakes that you are probably making or might make on your cruise and how to avoid them. Mistake number one is packing too much stuff. People do this quite often. They overpack a lot. If you're going on a 7-day cruise, you don't need 21 different outfits. I know a lot of people like to have an evening outfit in addition to their daytime outfit, but you can rewear clothes. People won't notice. We tend to bring one, maybe two nicer outfits, and that's it. And then in terms of our actual daytime clothes, no matter how long the cruise is, we usually pack for about 4 days. Even if we're cruising for 21 days like we did to the Mediterranean, we don't tend to pack more than 4 or 5 outfits just to help cut down on some of that overpacking, and so that way we have space in our cabin. We stay in interior cabins with the 3 of us, and so we need to have some space to be able to put all our stuff. And when you overpack, you just won't have the room. Mistake number 2 is not pre-downloading the app. You need the app for a lot of things, including checking in, booking your excursions, booking your dining times. Right after you book your cruise, make sure you download that app and it will register in, make sure your booking is all right. And you just need to be able to have it in advance. It's also nice to look over deck plans before your cruise. And Princess will usually start putting about a week or 2 in advance some of your activities. So you can look in advance and be able to see your shows, your entertainment, that kind of stuff. Mistake number 3 is arriving too early or too late. Princess does give you a boarding window. We prefer to be on the early side because we film and do a bunch of work on boarding day. But for most people, you want to kind of stick in that boarding window. If you arrive at the port too early, you might be stuck waiting in a lounge. And if you don't have Platinum or Elite, that lounge can get pretty crowded pretty quickly. And then you're kind of just stuck waiting around anyway. My theory though is I'd rather be waiting in a lounge than waiting at a hotel, but that's just me personally. Also, you don't want to wait to the last minute because you do not want to miss your ship. The cruise line will not wait for you, so do not get there too late. Number 4 is waiting till the last minute to do your muster drill. We prefer to do our muster drill as soon as we board the ship. You don't want to be wasting time waiting around and just doing other things. Do it as soon as you get on the ship. So visit your muster station right as soon as you get on board and then head to your room or do it on the app as soon as possible. Mistake number 5 is forgetting to have your carry-on packed with your essentials. We've done a whole video on what we pack for our carry-on, but make sure that you pack in stuff like medication, important documents. You don't want to be missing out on having those important things in your carry-on on embarkation day. Mistake number 6 is not exploring the ship on day 1. Take the time day 1 or early on day 2 to explore the ship, especially if you have a shorter 7-day cruise. You want to learn this ship as quick as possible so that way you're not wasting time getting lost and wandering about later. Mistake number 7 is over planning. We tend to bookmark a lot of activities on the app, but then we don't actually go to all of them. You want to have that time to be able to spontaneously go to an activity, or if you see something and you're like, oh, let me stay and see that. Or maybe you're like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna like that activity, and then you go to it once and you absolutely love it. You wanna have the ability to flow. Do not overbook yourself and overplan and be like, oh, I need every minute planned. Mistake number 8 is definitely one that we've made before, and that is not looking at the Princess Patter or in the app and seeing what activities there are. A lot of the times there'll be stuff that's newly added, so you want to be able to check day to day so that way you're not like, oh, I really want to go to this thing and darn, I missed it. So check the app. We usually try to do the app and the Patter at night in the morning. That way that we can just double check that we're not going to miss out on anything that we might want to do. Number 9 is forgetting to bring small bills for tipping. You want to have the ability to tip your porters, tip tour guides, stuff off the ship as well as on the ship. So make sure you bring some small bills. If you're traveling within the Caribbean, US dollars work well. If you're traveling in Europe, you'll want to use euros. We've used both for US dollars and euros. When we were in Norway, we did use US dollars. Kind of need to know where the ship is headed because on the ship, you're going to want to tip in whatever currency is most likely the crew is going to be able to use. Off the ship, you are going to want to tip in whatever the local currency is. If you're traveling into the Caribbean, US dollars is usually accepted everywhere, so you want to do that, but you also want to make sure they are crisp dollars. You don't want anything ripped or crinkled because some of the banks won't accept it. So the crew members or the guides that you're tipping might have issues cashing those in if they are crinkled or ripped. Mistake number 10 is that you are waiting to the last day to check for your onboard account. You want to be checking your onboard account every single day to make sure there's no errors, anything that you've been charged for, that you shouldn't have been charged, anything like that. If you didn't prepay your gratuities, if you don't have Plus or Premier, you want to see that your gratuities are on your stateroom account every day. You want to check every day and not wait to the last minute because it's going to be a lot harder in that big long line that you're going to find at guest services on that last day. Mistake number 11 is ignoring or not paying attention to time zone changes. Depending on what cruise you're on, you might be going back and forth some time zones. You want to make sure that you have something that is going to switch. I prefer wearing a watch for this reason, like an old-fashioned digital watch that is not doing like self-service stuff. Your phone might not always be accurate. So I highly recommend having a non-digital, like non-connected watch or some sort of clock that you can rely on that you can manually set it, because you don't want to miss your excursion meetups. You don't want to miss any onboard times, like if you need to be back on the ship at a certain time, and those time zones can get a little tricky when you're heading back and forth sometimes. If you're finding this video helpful, be sure to subscribe for more highly caffeinated Princess Cruise tips and tricks. Mistake number 12 is not having the right plugs for your cruise. So if you're trying to travel with like a power bar, you cannot bring that on the ship. You need a cruise approved one. And depending on what ship you're on, you might be on an older ship and not have the right plugs. Whereas like we went on the Sun Princess and there's USB-A and USB-C. You want to make sure that you have the right plugs to charge your devices so you're not left out. Mistake number 13 is not using your deck plans on your app. Your app can actually direct you where you need to go by just going, take me there. And you can follow the directions kind of like a GPS, which is so much easier than going to like the boards by the elevators and trying to figure out how you're going to get there. If you don't have the app and you do need to use those boards, make sure you're like logging in or at least using the feature of being like, take me there, and then follow the directions. So much easier than trying to be like, trying to figure out where you are and where you're going. Use those boards and use your app, especially your app. Mistake number 14 is just hanging out on the pool deck all the time. You do have some times where you can go to the quiet lounges and relax there. You don't need to be ordering drinks. We've talked about this a million times. You do not need to order drinks to sit in a lounge. Some mistake that we've made. You can also go in lounges even if there's not activities going in there. So we love to go to like Vista Lounge and Club Fusion and Skywalker's Lounge. We love to go to those venues when they're quiet and not open. On the Sun Princess, we tend to sit in the piazza, but we could have went to like Princess Live and relaxed there instead. Also, there's usually like one of the dining rooms that acts as like a card and board game and a quiet reading area. So those are great options as well, especially if you're like me and you get sensory overloaded by the pool deck and the heat and stuff like that and you just want to relax. Mistake number 15 is not communicating your dietary restrictions. If you have an allergy or you have something like celiac, you're diabetic, you want to put those in the app ahead of time. Make sure that your travel agent puts them in your reservation so that way they know ahead of time that you need some of those accommodations. And then on the first day that you are dining, make sure you point it out and tell your wait staff, because it's so important for them to know that. They are more than happy to accommodate you, but if you don't communicate your needs, they can't help you. Mistake 16 is skipping travel insurance. This is a mistake that I've made in the past where I was only getting the medical insurance. I'm Canadian, so I'm not used to doing medical, but I knew that I needed it for traveling, but we would skip out on cancellation insurance and stuff like that because I didn't think it was worth it. Now I make sure to always have it because you never know what might happen. I've had clients that had medical emergencies the week before their cruise and they had opted out of getting travel insurance. Thankfully, it all worked out in the end, but you need to make sure you have that insurance. Also, if you have luggage lost or delayed, travel insurance will usually cover you for stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you have the travel insurance, not just like relying on whatever, like my employer provides medical travel insurance or my credit card covers XYZ. Because a lot of times, especially with your credit card, you will have to have put your entire trip on that one credit card. And if you're like me, where I pay some, my brother pays some, we never are using just one card. So you want to make sure that you have separate travel insurance, check your limits, check your medical limits, because let me tell you, the $10,000 that Princess's travel insurance covers is not going to be enough if you have a major medical insurance issue. I had a client that had an $11,000 medical bill for a minor medical emergency. So like the insurance doesn't even cover all of that. So you want to make sure that you have good medical coverage. I'm not licensed for insurance, so I can't really compare plans or give advice, but like we personally try to aim for at least 5 million medical coverage. We make sure like evacuations are covered, that kind of thing. We also make sure we have trip cancellation insurance. We have lost luggage insurance, any luggage delays, any delays in general. Make sure you have good coverage because you don't want to be screwed over and be like, oh, I didn't want to pay the $200 for insurance and now I'm out $10,000. Mistake 17 is booking way too many excursions. I've had clients be like, can I book a morning excursion and an afternoon excursion? And it's like, don't do it. You want to have downtime. You also want to have like the time to relax in between excursions. You don't want to be rushing from one thing to another. You want to make sure that you have time in case there's any delays, that kind of thing. So don't overplan your days too much. We tend to err on the opposite side of we like to relax. So we try to be off the ship in the morning, go do an excursion, and we're usually back on the ship around lunchtime. We don't usually like to be super busy, and that's our personality. Maybe you do want to be super busy, but I don't recommend overbooking excursions where you're doing more than one excursion a day. Mistake 18 is not bringing a refillable water bottle. You want to make sure you have one that you can bring off the ship, so that way if you're going on an excursion, you're going hiking, even if you're just walking around the port, you have clean drinking water that you know is safe. This will save you a ton of money from buying bottled water off the ship. Even around the ship, we tend to like to have our own refillable water bottle, just in case we can't find a place to get water. If you have the Princess Plus or Premier package, you do have some water bottles included in that, so you don't need to worry as much, but we still prefer to have a refillable water bottle so that way it's much easier, especially off the ship. Mistake 19 is not having your baggage labeled and out on time for disembarkation. So I talked about this in the disembarkation process video, but you want to make sure you have your stuff labeled and out. Usually the time is around 8 p.m. You can talk to your room attendant if you're struggling with that time, because sometimes they're like, oh, I know I won't be done until 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. We had an issue on the Sun Princess where our laundry that we had sent out 3 days before was still not back. And we're like, we need to pack this. And he's like, don't worry, I'm working till 10 p.m. So ask your room attendant what time they're working till if you are really struggling, but don't wait until the last minute. Don't do it on purpose to be like, oh, I just don't want to put it out. Because if your luggage doesn't get taken off, you then are responsible for taking it off yourself the next morning, and it's not worth it. So many times we see people with these giant suitcases lugging them into the elevators, and it's just not worth it. Make sure you have them out and on time so that way it can be taken and your hands are free. Mistake number 20 ties in with this, and not making sure that you have an outfit for the following day when you do pack up your stuff. Don't wait until the last minute to figure this out. You want to have your next day outfit ready to go, and anything like toiletries, medication, kind of the same as the embarkation day. You want to make sure that you have all your documents, anything important in a carry-on to be bringing off the ship as well. Mistake number 21 is not making those dining reservations early. If you're a Platinum or Elite, you can actually make them at the time of booking. So all our dining reservations are done for our cruises. If you're not Platinum or Elite, you can book your dining reservations after final payment. So make sure you book them as soon as you possibly can after your final payment, because you want to make sure you get the times that you want. Don't be left disappointed by the fact that you missed out because you didn't book them early. Same with specialty dining, especially if you're like, oh, it's my anniversary on this date, I want a dining reservation at the Crown Grill. Make sure you book it early because you don't want to miss out because you waited too long. For more dining mistakes, go check out this video right here because I break it down a ton more dining mistakes that you're probably making.